Hello everyone, it's Leah Costa, and today I am going to be showing you with facts how our mainstream media has become dangerously biased and is working to deceive you in many ways in order to implement fear and division in our communities, our friends, and even our families. I believe you will find this information very important to you because over time, your decisions and those around you are influenced by what we see, hear, and believe. To date, I have spent years researching current and past events to better know and understand the truth of what is happening in the world today. And although I love history, this isn't a hobby. This is a responsibility. I will show you how the mainstream media is biased, why they are biased, and what you can do to make sure that you do not fall victim to their lies. Before I proceed, I should warn you that with knowledge and privilege come great responsibility, and what you are about to hear may convict you. And depending on how far down the rabbit hole you want to go, you may find yourself being called to action and spreading the truth. Like most of you, I grew up in a house where my family watched the evening news, and over time I learned that we as Americans have a responsibility to take the time to do the research in order to make better educated opinions and understand the truth of what is going on. And not his truth or her truth, but because people lie to themselves every day, but the factual truth. We've all heard the phrase that first impressions last forever. Well, Natalie Wire, who acquired a PhD and held several academic positions in several different universities, wrote in March of 2016 in the Journal of Experimental and Social Psychology, while talking about first impressions, says that when things are implied, meaning suggested, during a first impression, people will become unwilling or even refuse to change their views on their first impression, even after learning that the implications were not true. So when it comes to what's important in the world right now, and I want you to think about this, we tend to get our first impressions of a situation through our mainstream media in forms of headlines, whether it be newspaper or TV news. Well, Aramak Olkasoy Octon, a fifth-year PhD student in social psychology at Lehigh University, stated in January of 2018 that drawing big conclusions from such limited information can lead to poor decisions. This can be found in the Association of Psychological Science at psychologicalscience.org. You see, every single news source you will find is owned by someone. History has shown that people who strongly believe a certain way will use whatever resources necessary to persuade or motivate certain behaviors and beliefs in others by appealing to their emotions. Now, do you know who owns and operates our news stations? What about Google, the most used search engine? YouTube? Facebook? What are their beliefs? Who are they associated with? Do they feel strong enough about them to use their platforms to further push their agendas or beliefs? Do they profit off of yours? With that being said, CNN's motto has always been the most trusted name in news. Now, the president of CNN, Jeff Zucker, backs this up in an interview with Brian Stelter held on October 20th, stating that we, CNN, do not set out to be pro-Trump or anti-Trump, but to be pro-truth. And I believe that this is the most honest action a journalist can have. This interview was supported and posted by CNN at CNN.com for all to hear. What wasn't posted and supported by CNN was how a journalist by the name of James O'Keefe secretly sat in and recorded Jeff Zucker's 9 a.m. conference calls for over 2 months. Then, on December 1st, just last week, began posting them online for Americans to hear. You can hear him telling the reporters, this is Jeff Zucker, telling the reporters and journalists what to cover and what not to cover in order to further their agenda and propaganda. Jeff Zucker and his team should be transparent and shouldn't have anything to hide if it's pro-truth. But now Jeff Zucker is trying to sue James O'Keefe for releasing these phone calls. I believe it's very clear by listening to these calls that there is a specific motive and an extremely clear bias in their reporting, especially when they speak about, quote, ways to attack and how they are guided by a specific political group. You can find more about this yourselves on projectveritas.com and listen to those recordings. Another example that you may remember if you watch MSNBC, and I did almost every day for a year or more, was the news anchor Stephanie Ruhle clearly stating on Tuesday, October 2nd of 2018, and I quote, We are only going after his Supreme Court nominee, referring to Brett Kavanaugh and the false allegations against him. When she said that they were going after, that was not a resemblance of unbiased reporting, my friends. That was a show of attack. Brett Kavanaugh's wife, Ashley, and his daughters, who were only 10 and 13 at the time, were sent horrendous threats of death, rape, and encouragement to commit suicide. Where do you think those senders' emotions derived from? We've learned here in this class alone how to use strong words to derive emotion in our audience. Don't you think the media does the same thing? Now you see, this is where the mainstream media gets really dangerous for us as Americans, because we live by a principle that if you are accused of a crime, you are innocent until proven guilty. In some countries, it's not that way. Instead, you're guilty until you can prove your innocence. And it's a scary thought to think that someone who doesn't like you can point a finger and you have just become a criminal. According to an article written by Grace Panada, the senior politics reporter at Business Insider, on April 9th, 2019, she says that Americans' overall trust in the media has declined among all political groups. You can find this on businessinsider.com, and that gives me some hope. But in order to know the truth, you need to stop listening to the mainstream media. Start taking the time to do the research and hear it from the horse's mouth, not through the grapevine. Be careful where you do your research. Don't just rely on Google. Try using other search engines like DuckDuckGo. You may only be getting one side, so look at both. And most importantly, dive in and dig deep. Sometimes the truth is often hidden. Numbers and statistics, they do not lie, like our mainstream media does. You want to be well informed, especially when voting. Look back in history. America has made great strides in freedom and liberty, but it wasn't without a cost. Know what it took to get here, but most importantly, know what it took for others to lose their freedoms. You can do that by reading firsthand accounts in books like Selko's book about Bosnia's civil war, or Fernando Aguirre's book on the collapse of Argentina. Those places have one thing in common before losing their freedoms, but I won't tell you what that is. I want you to do your own research. America is a mother to other countries. We provide aid, we provide hope to people who need it. But like a mother, if we don't take care of ourselves, we are not able to help others. Being born in America is a privilege. You have endless opportunities, but it comes with a responsibility of helping to preserve those freedoms and opportunities that make America so great. Well, now you know what's really going on, and you know how not to be deceived. So stop supporting the biggest propaganda machine, our mainstream media. You are an American. You have a responsibility, and you, my friend, have just been called to action. Thank you.